Good morning, good morning. Sorry to trick you, but we do not have Doug Van Pelt here because he's no longer worthy to run this podcast. I am Jeff McCormack, and I am taking over. And we booted him out. No, honestly, Doug was unavailable, and I'm stepping in. And yes, so you may or may not know me. I've been with Heavens Metal since way back when he relaunched it, which is now going back like 2005 or so. And I, have just been in connections with him for years. So he offered to let somebody take over the show in his absence. And since it takes more than one person to replace Doug Van Pelt, I do have another of the Heavens Metal crew with us this morning that I want to bring in real quickly and introduce him, and then we'll get into this. So we have one of our newest Heavens Metal crew members, Jimmy Sorrells. I'm going to say it wrong. See that? And you may know him already because he's from the Christian Metal group on Facebook. He has a YouTube channel. He's done interviews, all kinds of fun stuff. So let's bring him in. How you doing, Jimmy?
Hey, man, I am doing great. Glad to be here.
So, like I said, he's one of the newer team members from Heavens Metal, and we are welcome. It's great. It's been a group effort since the relaunch, and it's just been great, the amount of people that we have working with us. So Jimmy and I are going to try to do it justice and take over for Doug this morning. So hopefully everything will go smoothly.
Yeah, hopefully we'll win his approval.
Yeah, maybe he'll let us come back. Now, before we get into today's show, we got a couple of quick announcements. First off, we as at Heavens Metal, and this is queuing up with us, but if you're not aware, I'm sure most of you should be, that the Immortal Festival is coming up both in July. Oh my gosh, I really want to go, and I really wish I could go, and I'm hoping maybe I can work it out. But look at this lineup. I mean, it is every year. This is the 4th annual. Every year, it just is better and better. I mean, it's every year's great. But we got the first part in July, right around my birthday's 27th. So somebody should send me there for my birthday. But there's part 1 with an amazing lineup. And then in August, we have part 2 with yet another. I would love to see Durban. My goodness, I can't even believe that that's happening. But anyway, if you haven't made plans, if you've been under a rock, totally unaware, you need to make plans. Every year, it's an amazing lineup. And this is the 4th year. And all kinds of great people are there. So. But in conjunction with that, Heavens Metal, which has not had a print issue since 2011, I think was our last physical print issue, is doing a 40th anniversary. This is the 40th, and Heavens Metal started in June of 1985. I think I discovered it later that year, maybe early, in a couple issues in. But 40th anniversary coming up. We're that old. And yeah. So we are doing a 40th anniversary print edition, specifically focused on the Immortal Festival bands, with all kinds of information and all kinds of fun stuff. It's great to get back into the hustle and bustle of doing print for special events like this. So yeah, what's your thoughts on that, Jimmy? I know you came in right as this stuff started. So
yeah, I'm excited just to be a part of it. It's pretty amazing to have this a special edition. Y'all are going to want to get it. Trust me. It's got some really good articles in it. This is also the 40th anniversary for Sanctuary International and Striper. So lots of good celebrations going on this year.
Yes, absolutely. It just, and a lot of us who have been around since then, I guess, again, it starts making you feel old, but we were there in the heyday, and that's we have great memories. So, yes, and mentioning Sanctuary and all of that, a couple quick announcements for Sanctuary. In June is the Sanctuary June get-together at the 242 at the Storehouse, where it's a Sunday worship. They have Saturday meetings, and you can check the QR code there to get more information on that. They meet frequently, and you can find information there about that. But also, just so you're aware, make sure that you check out the Sanctuary on social media and all the different online community that they have. You can see on the screen also, and check the QR code that they have all kinds of special things online and places you can find them. And yeah, make sure you check it out. All kinds of different people, including those of us here at Heavens Metal who are part of the Sanctuary online community now. And so, again, QR codes on the screen. You can check out the access. Follow them, like them, do all the fun stuff for social media. Look at all those icons. They're everywhere. So, yeah, double check to make sure you're a fan of all of that stuff. So there you go. And we are thankful to be here. We are thankful the Sanctuary has allowed us to be this platform. Yeah, I remember, I mean, Sanctuary was back in the day. I used to run my own magazine. Doug actually helped me start my magazine back in the 80s. Him and the people at White Throne. A lot of those people are people we work with now, but they all helped me launch my own magazine back in the day. And I used to send more copies of that to Sanctuary Church because all the bands had Sanctuary Church addresses. And I just would send like 50 copies to the church. So they've been around doing a great work for all of these years, Pastor Bob and all of the staff there. It's been a great time. So, but all right, so let's get into what we're here today. Today we are going to, this again came together really quick. So it's just going to be a laid back discussion, but we have picked two guests this morning, two groups being represented that are on the ultimate extremes away from each other musically. I mean, it is the dichotomy of music here. We have some extreme metal and we've got some doom metal. You get slow, you get fast. And I will say that a lot of this has come because of Jimmy's help. So Jimmy, why don't you tell us who we got on today? And get on here.
Well, sure. I two bands that I actually connected with and was had the privilege of interviewing in the last year. So we have Andre from Shamash. They are a Christian metal band in Malaysia. He was actually in the very first Christian metal band ever in Asia, right? So he lives in Malaysia. And then we have Robert Elis is in WarPriest. They're a doom metal band from North Georgia in the USA.
Yeah, so we got two continents represented too. So there you go.
That's right.
All right, so let's pull them in here if they're available. I believe in the back room. Here we go. There we are.
Hello, hello.
So if you're not familiar with the bands, I mean, I've a lot of people hear about. There's so many bands out there, but you hear a lot about other bands, but you can always check them out. But definitely check them out. Real briefly, the thing that I mean, I'm big into doom. I like doom metal to a decent degree, and so it is what it is. If you like doom or anything doom and sludgy, definitely check out WarPriest, husband and wife team. And I want to find out more about how that all works out. But it sounds just amazing. And then Andre, I saw his previous Jimmy's interview with him like a year ago, and he was asked, how do you describe your music? And I'm like, yeah, it's hard because it's all over the place. You hear pieces of everything. It's not just straightforward, brutal death, black, or whatever. It's very interesting. So anyway, welcome guys and gals.
Well, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much
Great to be here.
inviting us.
Sure.
It's an honor to be here.
All right, Jimmy, you want to say anything? You tell us a little more about your guests that we've pulled into this.
Well, I mean, we'll start with Andre. Tell us a little bit of just about your brief background of getting involved in a Christian metal band in an area where that wasn't even a concept.
Okay, so I live in Malaysia, which is like on the other side of the planet. And I, to be honest with you, wasn't really into metal as a kid. I was a typical, MC Hammer, Vanilla Ice kind of kid, right? But my brother brought a Iron Maiden cassette one day, and he was listening to it, and I was like, wow, this is good stuff, And lo and behold, some kid in my church, brought a White Cross cassette and a Striper cassette to church, and we were listening to it. And I'm like, wow, this is like the bomb, So as a 12-year-old kid, that really kind of like affected me, and I ended up getting into rock metal. But I think the real game changer for me was when I first listened to Deliverance, and realized how Christian music could be heavy, and I thought that was it. And then someone introduced me to Mortification, and it just got more extreme, So lo and behold, in 1992, I told myself, you know what, I'm going to try to, play music. And I started a band called Necromanicide. And we actually got signed. And, I was actually quite young. I was too young to even sign a contract, I remember back then. And we started this band. And we were actually the first Christian metal band to be signed out of Asia at that time. And so that was in what, 1993, 94. And I've been playing metal since, but there was a quick break, and I kind of stepped back, went into worship music. Pandemic happened, and I just felt God's calling to just do heavy music again. And so I started Shamash. And so Shamash is a slightly different project. I'm very old school. I'm into all the old school death metal stuff, but I work together with a bunch of other musicians that are into a little bit more like modern metalcore. And so we have this very unique sound that's, a little bit of everything. So our philosophy is we don't want to have two songs sound the same. So that's basically the band.
Nice.
I agree. I did, and I remember you made that comment on that previous interview with Jimmy a while back. And as you listen to it, it stands out more. I'm like, every song does. When you listen to extreme music, sometimes it just becomes, it sounds a lot the same. But yeah, it was like I'm picking up different things in every album. I mean, in every track of the album. So. And as you mentioned, just so the people know, you like you said, Necromanticide was your first band, which of course is named after a Mortification song, right? So, and they have an album, Hate Regime, in '98, and it was reissued just in like 2023 by Vision of God Records. So if you're looking for that, and it is way different, it's definitely more old school, but than the Shamash stuff. Which you have an EP from 2020. And then you have an album from 2024, right? And you're working on some new stuff now.
That's right. We've got a new single. I was actually just in the studio yesterday. It was like 2 days of just laying down. We did the demos, and we decided to hit the studio. So we're working with a pretty an award-winning engineer in Malaysia. His name is JD. So we started laying down stuff. I was not feeling too well, so we just took a little break. And next Thursday, I'm back in the studio just to kind of finish up all my vocal lines. And and we should have the song ready, by the end of next month, I guess. And we'll wait for the record label to just maybe announce the release date for the single.
That's awesome. So I think the key to this story is you listen to Mortification because it will change your life, right? So,
absolutely.
So for the new fans out there for Shamash, can you tell them where does the name come from?
Okay, so the name Shamash actually comes from, I'm not too sure if you're familiar with the Hanukkah menorah. So the candle in the center of the Hanukkah menorah is called the Shamash. It literally means it's the servant candle. But I like the imagery behind it because it was the candle that basically you take to light other candles. It's the servant candle. And it was very representative of, Isaiah 53, the suffering servant, which is what our first EP was named after, right? The suffering servant. So as a band, it's always been our ministry to ignite the love and passion, towards the message of Christ. To me, it's a ministry. It's about serving. And so I thought Shamash was a very apt name, so that's what we went with, Shamash.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and you may have also heard Andre on you were on Vulture's Gathering. Real briefly,
Yes.
how did that, I mean, that's, I didn't even stop to think who was in that band. And, there's so many projects these days, but how exactly did that happen? Because, I mean, that's like, I know Chaz is like a U.S. guy. So, I mean, is it just some kind of thing you all did from afar or, a project?
Yeah, I've never met Chaz or Ryan Roebuck in person. So the
Ryan's
band
here
is
watching.
actually
We saw Ryan here watching. So
yeah, Ryan was just online because I was like, hey, Ryan. So what a lot of people don't really know about me and Ryan is we're practically just talking to each other every day on Messenger. We just we're just buddies. And so what happened was I was introduced to Chaz, and we're like, hey, let's just do one song, just for the heck of it, right? And Chaz was like, you know what, let's just do a whole album. And I was thinking like, you know what, just two guys, let's make it a band. And I was asking Ryan, I'm like, hey Ryan, you're doing Ritual Servant and Motivate, right? what do you think about, just maybe doing one more project? And he was like, man, I'll think about it. And he said yes. And so what we did was we started just mulling ideas for songs. And what I did was basically I came up with all these different songs. I'll send them over to Chaz. Chaz would listen to it. He would write the lyrics. He would sing over it, send me the tracks, mix it all down, send it over to Ryan. Ryan would do his parts, and we just kind of put it together. And so that's how we got The Hunt. It was I guess a very different concept. It was very old school metal, but that's the kind of stuff that I kind of grew up listening to, and I still like it a lot. And I thought it was a great project. It's just that it is different.
You think y'all be making any more music?
We've been talking about it. I think Chaz is really quite into it. He's brought it out a few times, and I am very open to the idea. It's just that between Ryan and me, we have our projects that we kind of like have to finish. I think there's like new Motivic stuff coming up. I've got a whole new Shamash album that's being worked on, and yeah, I'm definitely I'm down for it, man. I kind of love the Vultures Gathering stuff. And, we have a very good chemistry, the three of us. We're always just chatting online all the time. Never really met them in real life, but we're the best of friends, man.
And, of course, you keep mentioning Motivic, and I guess you made a guest appearance on that, too. So that was
I did. And
if you – I mean, I'm sure our audience – I'm sure they're aware of them. But, I mean, that – you have to check out that album. I mean, not that we're not talking – we're not bringing in a different band there, but you brought it up, and you're part of it. So – that was just a mind-blowing album in my opinion, because it has a lot of different styles too. So anyway, I'll just put a little plug in there to check out the latest by that, and then you'll hear Andre on there too. So
right,
for sure.
That's awesome. And then Robert and Elise, tell us a little bit about your background. How do you get into doom metal, and how's your band get formed?
Well, first I want to say when I found out that Doug wasn't going to be here, I'm thinking about leaving now. But
oh
man, hurt right there.
No, but we do thank you for allowing us on here. And basically, what I do is I listen to whatever Andre puts out, and then I speed it down about like 400%, and then that's our music. So we're just ripping off other artists and just slowing it down.
Just speed it up at somebody else.
So WarPriest was formed. I'd been doing music since mid to late 80s. Was in a few Christian bands in the early 90s. And then kind of like Andrea, I took a break for a while. We had started having our children and focused on raising them. And then we got into worship. And we were doing, I was doing a lot of worship music, and then she joined, and we were doing leading worship in some churches. We were going up in the mountains of Georgia, up at a place called Hiawassee, and we were leading worship up there at a church. And so I did that for a while, and then I got to a place where I got kind of tired of it. I mean, it's great doing worship, but worship can become like a job behind the scenes, where you're up there every Sunday, you're putting out the music, sometimes you don't really feel God, you don't really know, and it just becomes a churn. And after a while, I started feeling like I want to do what I want to do, and so I got back to doing metal again. And so I started writing songs back in, I think, 2013, and really marinated them for a long time, just working on them and trying to get my sound to sound better and stuff. And so it wasn't until 2020 that we put out our first album, which was just me. It was just mainly me doing the music and the singing and stuff. And then of course COVID hit right about the time I was releasing that, so that kind of set us back. And then I had a lot of songs in the queue, so I was able to come out with the second album, Dark Ages, I think it was the next year. And then it took me a long time to come out with a recent album, Gloombreaker, which was last year, about 2 years to do that one. And part of that was just because life started picking up, and then things started settling in where it just got to a point where it was kind of hard working on stuff, and there'd just be days where I just didn't feel like doing anything. And so but on the second album, I decided to bring her in because I thought there was a few songs that I just felt like I couldn't sing them. And so I was like, what would you like to do, with this? What could you do with this? So I gave her the songs and just said, come up with whatever melody you want. I gave her the lyrics, and usually I give her the harder lyrics to do. So that brought her in. And part of that was because I was listening to a lot of bands at the time also that were female fronted doom bands. So I really liked that aspect and stuff. And so I kind of liked bringing in both of us singing, and giving like a little bit of a variance. But so that's how I brought her into the band. And then I gave her more music, I think, on Gloombreaker, gave her another song extra to sing there. But that's my story. I don't know what you want to say.
Well, you asked about how I got into doom and singing and all that. Well, I've always been a metalhead at heart. I think it started around 7, 8 years old. I'm from Brazil, and listening to Rock and Rio, they would pipe the concert live on the radio. So I would have the old boombox, and I would be listening to it in my ears right to the speaker. And bands like Scorpion and Queen were playing at that time, and I listened to everything. I was really brought up with appreciation of all types of music. So I grew up listening to opera, jazz, everything, classical, pop. So it was a very rich environment when it came to music choices. But my heart just always went back to metal. I still enjoy several music styles, but it seems like metal just makes me happy. It just does something really special, just to my soul. It just feeds the soul. So I have always wanted to do something artistic. So I've been an artist since I was 6 years old. I started messing around with that and trying to learn, and also trying to learn how to sing. But really, it wasn't until I moved to the United States when I was 13, and I met my boyfriend at the time, and he was a musician, and started learning how to play the keys a little bit and sing a little back vocals. Then got into choir, still loving metal. And 87 to me was just a magical year. That's when I was introduced to Striper. And my faith just started growing. I started knowing more about the Lord and getting into the Word, getting into good churches that was teaching the Word. And I think that made all the difference. And once I met my best friend that got put into my art program by accident, which we know there's no such thing as accident with the Lord.
No.
And he just opened up like a whole new world of music to me. And we used to work in a studio setting. I went to a school that was kind of like a Juilliard type of school. And my teacher was amazing. She gave us a whole studio to ourselves, just me and my buddy. And we just blasted all the Christian music as loud as we wanted. And in school, which was fantastic. And we would just be working our butts off, just painting and just rocking out to God's metal. And I got introduced to Deliverance and just all kinds of
a common theme here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Take a break, practice worship, listen to Deliverance. All right.
Put out a Shamash
so it
album.
was great. So so I definitely really grew a lot in my faith here in the U.S. And I started going to the same church that he was going to, and through this mutual friend, Mike, and it was just amazing that, at that time, it seemed like so many Christian metal bands were being featured and was coming out, and it was just like this movement, and all of us were around the same age, and we were all growing in our faith, and it was just a really beautiful time to be alive and just be a Christian and be bold for our faith at that time, and just have that freedom, and I feel like those original bands really paved the way for the new modern bands to be able to come out and have that freedom. And I feel like even if they didn't grow up with the Christian metal bands, it still opened up the doors for the industry to be able to grow and for them to have a platform. So I think we owe a lot to the original bands that came out and paved the way for us. But with him, I've always been involved in the background with WarPriest. So even before I was officially in the band, I was already behind the scenes in the band with just listening and just, giving him my feedback.
She's the best critique I had. She would always criticize everything I did. I mean that in a good way, criticize.
We both are very matter of fact when it comes to our art. We want honest opinion. We don't want fluff and stuff. We want, just give me the real deal. Because I think when you're honest with each other, I think that's the only way you're going to grow. And I think that applies to our Christian walk too. I think that if you have people in your life that will tell you the truth, then you feel like you can trust them when they say that, you need to do this, or you need to maybe think in another way, or maybe take time to pray. I think that it's important to have those people in your lives. And for me, it's my wonderful husband and best friend. So we give each other good critiques, and we're very honest. And
how does your Christian worldview shape your music and that becomes a ministry? How does that work for your band?
I think for me, a lot of my music, I would say on the surface level, you may not, there's not the Jesus per minutes in there and stuff like that. But especially if you get the CD, you'll see that every song I tie it into the Bible verse behind it and show that thinking. So it comes from a Christian worldview thinking. Like Dogs of Doom, which was the first single that was off of our Gloombreaker, is dealing with, it's actually kind of a story of how I came to the Lord, which was the Holy Spirit was like the dog that was getting me and chasing me. And for me, it was kind of like a fear that led me to God, where I needed that to shake me up and lead me to God. And so that dog of doom was kind of there in the periphery, so to speak, pushing me to what was God. But the song also lets you know that if you don't go to God, that it's ultimately hell is what you're going to face. And for a lot of people, I think in the who aren't believers, I think that is always something that is there in the periphery of their life, that they feel this sense of something's wrong and they're not happy and they're not well, and that's driving them. And if only they would realize that it's God wanting to bring them into a relationship with him. So every song that I write has the God behind it leading that song. But I usually compare it to what I would say is like Chronicles of Narnia, C.S. Lewis. You read those stories, and like when I was a kid, I first read Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I didn't know C.S. Lewis was a Christian. I didn't know it was a Christian thing. And I viewed it and it was a wonderful story. But it wasn't until I got saved that then I realized, oh, wow, this is really, the lion is Jesus and stuff. And so that's kind of how I write my music, from that kind of perspective.
Okay. That's awesome.
And I'm just going to interject this. It's totally off mark, but I'm just mesmerized by your shirt. I love the artwork on the WarPriest material. I'm big into the whole, warriors and knights and Dungeons and Dragons stuff. But you got a Molly Hatchet feel on some of that with that horse rider guy. But I'm seeing the shirt behind you. So tell me about the artwork on your wall, because that looks really cool. Is that custom made, or did you take the shirt from that?
Talking about her being involved, she's the artist behind it, and she painted all the album covers.
Oh,
so
my
that
gosh.
was another thing. She's a traditional artist who really excels at portrait work and flowers and other things. And so the funny thing is I challenged her and I said, can you do this art? because this is more of a fantasy kind of
Yes.
idea. And so, in case people don't know, I'm a graphic designer, and I did a lot of work with. I used to do work under the name Death is Gain. And
oh, okay.
yeah,
I remember you. I remember you.
That's
yeah.
small world.
So I
Oh
actually
man, you used
a
to
lot
do
of
some
it.
killer stuff.
Yeah, thank you. So a lot of it I lay out graphically and show her like the concept, and then she goes and paints it and turns it into a painting. So that's how we work together. So even on the first album, she's there as the artist behind the artwork.
Oh,
That's
I love
that's
that. I
awesome.
love that art. I mean, I'm definitely buying that T-shirt, but the art on that it came from is even so much more robust.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I really honestly
in
in this day and age, I seriously, really honestly thought it was AI, but because it was just so good. I thought somebody has to be. I mean, I know people can be great, but man, that is so wonderful. Are there
That's a
prints available?
really good. That's a good lead in. Tell us about some of the album covers that you've worked with and some of the artists that you've been involved with over the years.
Well, currently I'm working with, I got a few people that I've been working for a couple years behind the scenes. I'm working with X Sinner on the next album that they got coming out. I've been working with George Ochoa on the next Worldview album cover. I set up the Human Code album cover, the recent one for that. My biggest claim to fame is I did Theocracy's Mirror of Souls. That's the one that kind of put me on the map, mainly because of the band. And but I've done some other stuff for reissues, like I did King James's The Fall. I did boy, now you put me on the spot. I'm trying to think of I did a lot of work with Matt Hunt from Retroactive.
Retroactive, yeah.
In the beginning there.
We touched some brides. Oh,
I did Brides, Skin for Skin.
I just ordered that CD. Awesome.
Yeah, and I'm trying to. Right now I just can't think of I had done. Well, I started doing one for Deliverance, and then that album, it was the Annals of Subterfuge, which at the time had fallen through, and then I think they released the album later on with different artwork, but there was a lot of stuff I was doing. And then when I started at WarPriest, I kind of moved away from it because a lot of my stuff was doing WarPriest, doing the albums and doing the promo work and all that. And then a lot of, work was doing the music. So it just kind of became time consuming, and I didn't really focus on that anymore.
you don't work for Randy Rose?
Oh yeah. Randy Rose. I did,
Sacrifice.
I did Songs for the Ritually Abused.
Okay.
That one. Yeah. And then there was actually some other artworks. If you go to my Death is Gain Facebook page, you can see a lot of the artworks that got rejected. There's like about 4 or 5 of them that I did. So yeah, I did a lot of work for a time before I had the band. So, then like I said, I would set up and kind of paste together what my idea was, which the first one, like you said, Molly Hatchet, that's a Frank Frazetta piece, Death Dealer, that I kind of borrowed from. And then the second one was kind of like a Frank Frazetta inspired, because he's a great artist. And then the third one was just kind of more like we just kind of came up with the idea on our own.
Jeff, you really nailed it there with the Molly Hatchet influence.
Well,
awesome.
That's the one thing. I mean, I love the artwork on the album. Sometimes in the albums, but no, I mean, I like Molly Hatchet, but still, I just that art and a good cover artwork sometimes sells a bad record. So I've bought many a bad record because of the great artwork. Who was it that made the comment when somebody in Heaven's Metal made the comment about how metal has somebody said the metal has some of the best artwork even for some of the worst music or something. Yeah, absolutely great.
Yeah, so there's a lot of planning that goes into the art, and I really appreciate Robert's ability to just come up with themes and ideas. Like every album has a theme, a concept, down to the layout of the inside of the CD. So he really takes a lot of time and creates a world. There's inside of one of the CDs where he came up with symbols and numbers, and they all link to scripture. So if somebody was really curious to figure out what all the runes looking symbols were, it actually led to different scripture that led to each song. So I really think that that's a really cool thing to add, and I think it enriches the whole experience when you actually purchase a CD instead of just having lyrics and credits and pretty art. So yeah, so, and when it comes to the painting, also a lot of thought goes into that. On the last album I started the previous year, and first I really pray about it and ask the Lord to help me to see if there's anything I can add to it, enhance it. And we went hiking at this beautiful place with waterfalls, and they had some cool, gnarly, old ancient trees. And I took some photographs and began study on it, and then came up with a design and of my own, and just added to what Robert already had presented me, and it just completed the whole look, and that's what the little gnarly tree is there.
Very cool. I love it.
Yeah, so the Lord really plays a big part in everything that we do. Like Robert said, even though there's not a lot of what do you call it, Jesus per
Jesus per minute.
Jesus per minute.
GPMs.
JPMs.
Yeah. The Lord is in it in every step of the way, and everything we do, we want to honor Him. We want to do everything with excellence and to the best of our abilities. And we really want people that don't feel comfortable going to church, who not particularly fond of Christians, to be able to enjoy our music and be ministered to, and also know that they, are loved, and that God loves them, and that they matter. Just because they don't feel comfortable going to church, I think that there's a good way to minister to them and reach out to them and let them know that they are thought of as well.
That's good.
It's funny how y'all mentioned that Jesus per minute stuff. I remember that was Andre and them. You all were talking about that in that one interview, and I mean, I think I've heard it in the past, but not to that extent. But yeah, Andre, back to you real quick. I know the newest picture that we've been showing of the band is like a full 5-piece band now. As far as I understand it, you play everything and do everything. And in the early recordings, it's probably just you, and then later you see, there's a picture of the band and there's 3 people. Now you got 5. So, and I know in both cases, both WarPriest and your band are probably more, at least originally, more projects. But does Shamash get out? Have you ever played a live show with the band? Are you able to? Is there much of an avenue for that in Malaysia? To get out and do that kind of stuff and with your styles and everything?
So we're a 5-piece band now because I think that is the plan. You're right. So I guess when Shamash first started, it was me just basically playing everything. And then it was Darren and Alex coming on board. And so it kind of like changed the music a little bit. And so, we kind of got together and we were like, what, guys, we kind of like have to prep ourselves to be a band that actually does shows. And I think for that to happen, we'd probably need to expand the lineup a bit. So that's where we got Steven, who was actually the guy that did some of the solo lines in our first EP, and also Proven in. So I kind of like took a step back from playing the guitars and I'm focusing a little bit more on singing. I'm involved in the songwriting part a little bit more, but I'm kind of like letting go of the guitar parts to people like Steven and all that, so that I can focus a little bit more on singing. So that's basically where the lineup is at. And I must say it's really affecting the dynamics of the music. So I'm not too sure whether you've heard the new demo. I kind of sent a copy over to Jimmy. Sounds a little bit different because of the dynamics of the band, So I've had the opportunity to kind of like flow back a little bit more to that worship feel that I like, because I kind of stepped away from metal for a bit. And then so when I got back, I was like, okay, let's make it metal. But I kind of like missed a little bit of that worship feel. So I kind of introduced a little bit more of that into the new Shamash music. So
Oh, nice.
if you've heard that new demo, it kind of is there a little bit, it's a little bit, it's got a bit more of, sections where you can kind of sing along with,
So we didn't
So I think that was the
mention
whole
this
idea.
earlier, but Andre's actually a part of the Christian metal group mod team.
Yes, I meant to mention that.
Yes, he helps us to keep that running. So just for a fun fact, Andre, tell us, how many languages do you speak?
Oh gosh, a little too much. Okay, so like any Malaysian, I speak our national language which is Malay, and English because we were an English colony at some point. I speak Chinese really badly because I'm supposed to be ethnically Chinese. I speak some Arabic. I speak Hebrew. I speak Burmese. I speak a little bit of Thai because we're just next door to Thailand, and I used to travel to Thailand quite a lot for work. And I speak pretty fluent Indonesian because my wife is Indonesian. So yeah, in a nutshell.
Only 8. No big deal. So So back to kind of what Jeff was hinting at. What is it like in your culture in Malaysia and playing metal, number one, and then being a Christian, number two?
So both are taboos of sorts in a way. So metal was frowned upon like a decade ago on a lot of our mainstream media, right? People would say things. We had our own version of the satanic panic, where the media would say things like, "Oh, our young people are, worshiping Satan, blah blah blah," and at the same time, Christians being a minority in a Muslim country, it's not a very popular thing, So it really wasn't working for us per se, But I mean, if God gives you, a talent to use, you're gonna use it anyway, right? So we've been winning small victories as we got along, and so we've had people also listen to our music and liked it and not caring that we were Christians. They just liked the music, and they would read the lyrics and they'd ask us questions. Hey, what does this mean? And I would think that it would open, doors, and I mean, at the end of the day, Shamash is all about serving people. So, while we enjoy playing the kind of music that we do, we are very clear about the mission, which is to, to serve people, and what better way to serve people than through music, right?
Yes.
So, but so back to, I mean, have you all had a chance to play much live, or is it mainly still just a project type mode at this point?
It still is a project, a band for now, but
You won't be at Immortal Fest this year, then? No, you won't be at Immortal Fest playing live. No? I guess you got to be about 40 years old. You got to have a band about 40 years old before you can do that, I guess. All those bands are classics, so.
Yeah. So about we would be a little bit more prepared to do that these days than we were, say, a year ago, with the lineup that we do have. And like I said, it's just baby steps because we've had conversations between Rod Wheeler and us, right? Because they were like, hey, your songs are doing pretty good. Are you planning to do shows? And we weren't really quite thinking about it when we started the project, right? Because it's just started off just being me, and it's no way I could just play a whole show by myself, right? But I guess it just got a lot bigger, and as we grew, and even the band as it is, it went from being something that was just my DNA, and now it's Darren, who's another key person in the band, myself, Alex, Puvan, and Steven, and so everybody's now added that DNA in the project, and so the sound of the band has changed. So if you listen to the EP to the last album and the one that's coming out, it's evolving along the way, and I mean that's the fun part. And so what I do enjoy about doing this project is that every time we just get together, something different happens, and that's really exciting for me.
That's awesome.
What about and I guess the same type of question to WarPriest. I mean, I know it's more of a two-person project, but have you ever got to play live? Do you play with tracks, or how would you even be able to do that, or are you just content with being a project?
I think In the beginning, it was more of something where it was just a release, like a project. We've kind of talked about it and joked about it. You know, how would we do it? We're in a rural area, and there's not a lot of people. I mean, I haven't really looked, but there's not a lot of people like musicians that you're going to find around here doing what we do. And there's like one club around here and stuff. And it's just not something that I've thought about doing live. I mean, I think in every musician, there's a desire to want to play live and connect with people. But it's just one of those things where I would either have to go in with, I guess, backing tracks or something, which I don't know if that would work out good or sound good. And either that or try and get other musicians on board. And that might be hard to find around here. So it's not something, I mean, we've kind of talked about it and toyed with the idea, but not really ever thought about really doing it physically, you know?
Yeah. Also, he works pretty hard at his day job and does a lot of overtime. So he's the only one in the department running in different locations. So he's pretty busy. So this setup with having the studio at home works really nicely for us because we can squeeze in time whenever he is able to. So, you know, with all the responsibilities that he has. If for me, I'm actually going to school. I'm going to medical school. So it makes it, you know, really challenging to find that time. So whatever time we have, nights, early mornings, weekends, you know, it was all dedicated for creating the album and writing the music and recording. And so I could be in the middle of cooking something and you know, be like, okay, you know, you think you can be ready to, you know, record this new song or this line or whatever. So we have to be creative with our time. So that's a challenge. So I think going out and playing live, it would require buying some equipment and finding the right people. So, I mean, who knows, you know, if the Lord wants us
One
to do
thing
that,
I love about WarPriest is y'all are the true definition of a do-it-yourself band. Like, and you're talking about how long it takes to release an album. That's because you literally are doing everything yourself from start to release, right?
Absolutely. The promos, the everything, the mixing, the mastering, the recording. I mean,
and you're not
some
on
people would
anybody's
say that the product
schedule.
reflects that it's a do-it-yourself.
No,
but
yeah, I got the latest CD. It's great. Yeah,
it's really, when you are behind the scenes, like I'm sure Andre will testify to this, it's really a ton of work. And I talked to a lot of musicians. I forgot that, you know, one of the people I've worked with is Jason Wisdom of Death Therapy. And I've helped him with a lot of graphic stuff, a lot of things like one or two of his last videos I helped to do and stuff like that. So, and people like that, like Jason Wisdom to me and Death Therapy, they should be much bigger than they are. But it's, you know, you look at him and he's got a family, he's got a job, and he works hard and he doesn't get the exposure that he should. And it's just a lot of work behind the scenes. And, you know, with all this stuff about algorithms and everything, and it's like you're trying to post daily and you're trying to do all this stuff just to get people to hear you. And and there's so much out there right now, especially with, you know, I remember, we all probably remember the early days of Christian metal when there was like 5 bands, you know, and everybody had their albums, and it was like, you know, and you just knew about everything, especially reading Heaven's Metal, you know, you were, you know, pouring over that and looking for new bands and stuff. And I remember even the late 90s, early 2000s when the internet started, and I would go to all these websites trying to find stuff. And now you just, with people like me doing stuff at home, you have stuff and so much out there. And also, you know, we had this, you know, a lot of stuff being thrown into the market with AI, and it just gets to be a big cloud of stuff. Like I think I posted a song the other day, Rob Rock that I liked, and nobody commented and nobody liked it. Nobody did anything because it just gets swallowed up in the group page. It's like with all the other posts and stuff going on.
Sometimes it feels like a drop in the ocean when it comes to, trying to just let people know we exist. So that's why I'm so thankful for this invite and feel so honored and blessed to have this opportunity to be here, because even if there are people out there that would love our music, just the way the algorithm works, they will never see us. So this is wonderful, and we're just so thankful for you guys and for the work that you're doing.
That reminds me, how much do I have to pay you for this again?
We'll talk about money later, but
that's all stream.
And you're making a totally valid point, of course, because music has changed, and now with the ability to do it yourself, everybody does it themselves, and sometimes we get a lot of mediocre stuff because of that, and we get a lot of great stuff that goes under the radar, sadly. But it does allow, and in your case, I'm sure too, it's an outlet. It's an outlet. Yeah. You're able to dump your creativity, even if, in my opinion, it's the same thing. I do a YouTube channel talking about music. I don't know if anybody's watching. I mean, they do comment, but I'm like, I don't care. I'm just dumping my interest into the ocean, the drop in the ocean. And if somebody sees it and enjoys it, fine. If they don't, it's for me therapy. And I know music is therapy. I mean, I was in a Christian band. We had an album out back in like 2007. That was before a lot of the crazy social media stuff, but still, we were a drop in the bucket. Nobody knew, there's no label. We did it ourselves, blah, blah, blah. And the struggle is real. But again, you do it almost as therapy for yourself. And then if somebody listens and enjoys it and it goes any further, then, hallelujah, it's done. But so I get it. A lot of what we do nowadays has to be just kind of something that we are passionate about doing, regardless of the outcome. So
it's a labor.
So if I may add something to this, because it's been really kind of like bothering me as well, and you did kind of bring it up, because as a musician, and it takes a lot of work to get materials going, demoing stuff, writing, endless hours and stuff. But right now, as an artist, you're also fighting with tons and tons of pointless AI postings that just basically just drowns all your posts, your work, right? So and it's been something that's been a little annoying for me, because I've seen a lot of people that work really hard to put together music. They would spend time, money in the studio, whether at home or whether outside, put all that effort only to have their work just drown in all these posts that are just AI generated. And it's kind of frustrating, and I think it's something that I think it's something that needs to be addressed at some point.
I agree with that. We've had this discussion quite a bit in the Christian metal group, because it comes up a lot, and we've decided, we don't allow any AI generated, songs and artwork, because it does take away from the original artist and the creativity, and everything. So, but what are your thoughts on a band utilizing AI to help them with a song, and not an AI generated song per se?
Well, like I said, it's a little bit divisive. There are some people that would generate like segments and parts. Okay, so for me, it's a very, very simple question. Are you using AI as a tool, or are you just basically just using AI full suite, right?
There you go.
Yeah. So if let's just say you're trying to get a sample for maybe a heartbeat for an intro, right? And you can't find what you want. The only way is to generate it. I understand it, because you'll still have to take it, you'll still have to put it in your mix, you're still going to have to tweak it and stuff like that. But guys are not doing that. Guys are just basically writing whole songs from a prompt, right? Whole albums. And you can see these guys, they release an album every 2 weeks, right? And they'd be like, hey, I wrote an album, I'm so talented. I wrote a whole album on Psalms 119, right? Here is the same album in the same scripture in 4 different styles, stuff like that. So, look at how talented I am. And for me, I've gone countless times, and I've posted countless times, and I've said, look, guys, not everybody's called to be a musician. If you like music, that's great, right? Put some effort to it. It's kind of like if you're in church, right? Not everybody's called to be a pastor Not everybody's called to be a musician. Not everybody,
Amen.
you could just be an encourager, right? You could just be there for someone. You could just be a giver or whatever, right? Do what God has called you to do. I mean, look, take the time, buy an instrument, practice, work on it. If it doesn't work out, it was just not for you, right? But don't do this and really dilute it and make it really tough for people that are really seriously putting the effort for it. So I think this is a topic that it gets really hot at times. And as a moderator in the Christian metal group, you can see the amount of postings. There are some people that are for it, some that are against it, and they're, they're very hot about it. But I think it's not a right thing. I think AI is a big cop-out, and the thing that's very annoying for me is that these guys that are posting it and they're like, oh, I'm doing God's work. I'm like, if your pastor turned up on Sunday and he didn't prepare his sermon and he got his AI to do it, I don't think the Holy Spirit was involved. You know what I mean?
Sadly, people do that too.
Yeah.
What if we used AI and holograms, and then we had a pastor just, it was kind of a joke because my wife asked the other day, as people, our pastor, as like people get older, she's like, what's going to happen if? And I'm like, we'll just get a hologram and recast a lot of his old messages and use AI to scan this. It's like, because it's possible. But yeah, is it right? I mean, and like the other day, and I can't remember the name of the band now, and it was in some of the Christian metal groups, but I was searching for something, and this band kept popping up, and I love the artwork. I mean, it was very WarPriesty as far as just the cool graphics, which were probably AI, and the music was cool. I hadn't heard of the band before, but that's not uncommon. But and it's so it's hard to tell. I'm like, nothing was telling me it was AI, but nothing was saying it wasn't. But I'm like, it had that feeling that this, and it was the vocals, and nowadays with auto tune, it's like maybe it's just auto tune, maybe it's got that process feel. But it made me think: am I listening to AI? Is this a band I want to track down and listen to, or is it just another AI generated project? Because it sounded good, but there was something questionable about it. So yeah, I know there's a bunch of division over that idea. So
there's a message I saw about a week or two ago, and I think I want to say it's John Piper, where he was at a speaking engagement, and he only had a certain amount of time, and he got up there and he said, I went into ChatGPT and I asked it to make a prayer and in the style of a certain preacher, and he goes, and this is what it gave me. And he read it, and this thing was remarkable. It was a beautiful sounding prayer and everything. And he got to the end of it and he said, now a lot of you would really feel that prayer. And he says, God doesn't desire the words. He's like, God gave us a spirit, that he desires the spirit behind the words. He desires that emotion. And so I agree with a lot of what Andre said with AI. And we always also have to divide it into segments. So something like, using AI as a tool for like searching or whatever, even though that to me is still kind of iffy and it can give you some weird stuff. I don't have a problem with that, and, because you're using it as a tool for something and whatnot. Even in the music industry, some of the tools are starting to go to AI to help with thinking. Like there's a mastering tool that you can use, and they say it's AI. I don't know if it's more algorithms or whatever, but you say, listen to the tune and then tell me how I should master it, and things like that. And so that kind of stuff is understandable. But then when we get into the creativity part where it's writing whole songs, and I think a lot of people, what they don't like is when people are trying to pass themselves off as a band or as a creator. And I think that's part of the problem. And one of the things I find interesting is a lot of people will tell them in the groups, they will say, well, go off to your own little island of misfit toys and have a group for this. And when you go to these AI groups on Facebook or something like that, they're like 30 people and it's all the creators and they're just posting, but then they get tired of that and they want a bigger audience. And so then they come on to the other groups like the Christian metal group and they post there. but then they get some hate because people are like, well, we don't want that here, you know? And so it's very divisive. I think in the last year or so, we've seen tremendous growth in it. And there's groups out there now that are imitating Black Sabbath, that when you listen to the vocals, they're unique and they're different and they're really good sounding. So it's getting to the point where it's going to start getting to, I mean, in the beginning, all of it to me sounded like early 2000s new metal with heavily auto-tuned vocals. And it was like, this is just crap, you know. But I'll also say a lot of people are fooled by it. And why? Because a lot of our music has become so processed, the vocals and everything, that it's not far from that music.
And that's why I was having a hard time telling what I was listening to. I'm like,
Yeah.
it sounded processed. I'm just like, is it real? I couldn't find evidence of it being a real band, but I didn't dig too deep. But again, it makes you question what you're hearing.
And I feel like when it comes to AI, I think that you have to stop and think about integrity. If you call yourself a Christian, why are you using something that is potentially stealing from real artists, real musicians, to create something that you didn't have much of an input? You didn't pick up an instrument, you didn't sing it, you didn't master it, you didn't mix it, you didn't do anything like that. And coming into a place, a public, professional place where people are looking for real musicians, real music. And as a Christian, why would you, first of all, not be honest, pretend that you are a band, pretend that you did all the work, or make excuses for the little amount of work that you did have, placed in it, and then argue with people saying that you're doing God's work or God's calling? I don't think God is going to call anyone to do something that would compromise their integrity and would cause you to have to be secretive and lie about how you achieved the work.
I agree with that. But we do have some, like, there's this one channel, I can't remember the name. It's like, we are the first Christian AI band, and they will put AI on there, but it's usually way down in the description somewhere. This was AI generated. And so we have to do research and look for that type of thing. And then we will ban that channel from being posted or whatever.
And there are some that are blatantly, I mean, they tell you, like Pastor Brad did a whole bunch of stuff, and he's flat out tells you what it is. And it's kind of like, it was almost kind of like just fun. Let's see what we can do. And, but yeah, when you start passing it off as being, and obviously a band like that would never be able to play live, but what good is it? So so you start putting it off as if it's something you did or created. It becomes
that's a problem. Yeah. And that also goes into artwork. I mean, you're not going to get an AI generated art piece that looks as good as what Elise painted. I mean, that's amazing.
Thanks. Well, they actually are getting pretty good, because what they do is every time I post or Robert posts my art into the universe of AI capabilities, they will steal it. They will steal aspects of my painting and create a new painting. And then so-called person will say, look at my artwork. I created 30 this week.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
There's a way you could block that, by the way. There's a way you could block that. There are platforms where you can actually kind of like upload your artwork and say that. And no, it's not a trademark, but basically what it does is it prevents these guys from sampling your artwork. So I watched an article on CNA about this once. It was actually started by a lady in Singapore. I'm going to find out what that site is and send that link over to you. So you can upload your artwork, and you can actually, what it does is it basically blocks all these different engines that would just scour the web and then sample your art for AI purposes. It would block your art from actually being there as well.
Is that using NFTs?
I'm not sure, but let me get that link and I'll send it to you guys, because it was an interesting documentary I saw.
There's been I think 2 technologies that are out there. One of them is actually being contested in, I think it's international law, because it basically will, like, let's say you post an artwork of a dog, it confuses the AI and says this is a cat. And so when they train the models, it would confuse them to what did a dog or a cat look like. But they were actually saying that it was introducing almost like a virus type thing into the AI model, which was against international law. So that was one of the things. And then I think what Andre was talking about, there's other ones where I think it's something, it either puts it into the image where it kind of disrupts and it won't allow it to use it or something like that.
Yeah, that's right.
But the funny thing is the artwork for Gloombreaker was as I have no problem sharing on my page about negative, reviews. And so when we came out with Gloombreaker, I was hoping this would be the album that would get us into more of the market. And so, every year I'd try and get my album reviewed. And so it got reviewed by Angry Metal Guy, and he basically just trashed the whole thing. He was like, "This is a horrible album. Don't listen to it." He's like, "These two are so amateurish and everything." And then it started popping up on other sites that I hadn't even sent it to, and everybody was just almost saying the same thing.
It was copy paste, and it was hilarious.
But it was funny because one of the people, it was a channel where these two guys review albums. He basically said the same thing. It's horrible. He's like, "These two are amateurs. Don't listen to them," or whatever. But then at the end of the year, he came back and he told us, "Hey, your artwork was listed in our best of the year." So I'm like, our artwork is great.
Well, we did get some new fans from
there you go.
I was about to say, but they say there's no such thing as a bad review because it always attracts attention. So you just got more publicity.
So we actually had their own fans coming online defending us.
Oh, wow.
And it's funny because
some of them were like, they're not great, but they're not bad. That because I think their rating system is the highest is a 5-star, and they gave us a 0.5. And so some people were like, I'd give them a 2, maybe a 3 tops, and stuff.
They were comparing us to another band that I actually had just seen it on tour with Falling in Reverse and other big bands, and they were actually saying that we were better than this other band.
Oh, wow.
On tour.
Right, there you go. There's no such thing as bad reviews. Somebody will find us.
There you go.
And nowadays with everything, not everything, but with so much being digital, they go and check you out. Now you just got another click on your song and you're, climb the ranks.
Yeah, we actually did have
the next week we were number 1 on Spotify.
A lot of people checked us out on our YouTube video.
We did. The funny thing is, sometimes I think it's about the style you like. Some of those people complained about, oh, it's slow or it's plotting or something. And I'm like, well, that's doom music. I don't know why you're complaining about that. So in the doom community, we've had a few channels. We were featured in bands of Georgia on one thing, and we've had some respect from people in the doom community. So and like we said earlier, we are some of our worst critics. Yeah. Me and her, when we talk about our music and things, we will say, I think that stinks, I don't like that, or whatever. So a lot of the stuff, when it would come with the Angry Metal Guy, I actually went on there and I said, "Man, I agree with a lot of what you said. We're amateurs." I was like, my wife's a worse critic than you are. I'm like,
she tells me I stink all the time. Well, anyway, I know we were trying to be respectful of y'all's time, and we've been over an hour now, so I don't know. Obviously, if we start talking divisive issues again, we could go deeper and longer. But I don't know. Do you all want to go ahead and wrap this up, or anything? Anybody want to say closing, or?
We're good to hang for a little bit longer. I mean, we don't have. It's kind of a rainy day here, and we don't really have anything. You're not holding us back from going to the park.
We like to hike a lot here in this area.
if somebody's watching this and they haven't bought a WarPriest or Shamash album, like, what are you doing with your life? I'm just wondering.
Yes, please go support.
Support these bands,
artists, real.
Because they're getting ready to retire on these music.
Yeah, we like I sent out an email earlier in the year. My website, which I'm paying money on, I ended up closing it out because I was just like, my store was on there, and I can do the store through other things like Bandcamp and stuff. But I enjoyed it. But I announced to people, and I basically said, I probably won't going to do another album. Just doing an album is so much work, and this last one took me 2 years. The album itself deals a lot with it's really kind of like I wouldn't say a concept album, but it's kind of like it where it takes you through dark things, and the title song Gloombreaker is Christ is the Gloombreaker. And so it deals with depression, deals with fear, it deals with anger, a lot of negative emotions, and taking you to a place where you have to rely on Christ. And the part of that was my struggle, dealing with mental, depression and things like that. It's something that I struggle with a lot of times. And during that album, there was that struggle that kind of was one of the things that slowed it down. It was a good thing in the long run because I had like 5 songs, and I actually just tossed them and re-recorded them, and I think everything came out better. But it was just a long struggle to try and get that album out. And so a lot of people thought I said I was quitting, which I wasn't. I was just saying, I just don't think I'm going to do another album. I'll probably do singles and stuff like that. And even trying to get out a physical album, which I'm blessed where I work at a printing company. So I actually print the album and do the CD and everything there. So that helps me a lot. But I don't know whether I'm going to be doing that anymore. It's just so much work to get done. And it's like, I got other things going on in life, and I can't.
When are they going to be released on vinyl? That's what us vinyl collectors want to know.
I found a website that does, I think it's like vinyl on demand.
Yeah.
I can't remember the pricing of it, but I was surprised that somebody does that, vinyl on demand.
Yeah, me too.
There's one I saw the other day, and there's actually a Christian band that reissued some of their demos on it, I believe, and they're from overseas though. So I'm like, I want to buy the records, but to get them from overseas, it was kind of expensive. But I guess that's where some of the vinyl on demand places may be. It's almost like you don't have to buy a big stock of them. They make them as needed type thing. So
yeah, right. I mean, Amazon does the book, the books that way. You print on.
I do a lot of artwork for people, book covers who do or do-it-yourself authors, and so I do the book covers, load it on Amazon, and they can order 5 or 10 at a time, but for the most part, it's just print on demand. So
right.
All right. Well, I guess I know everybody's sitting around, but I guess we shouldn't tie it up too much. Anybody still watching us out there?
I actually need to get back to hitting the books.
Yeah.
I'm in medical school, and so far I'm doing well. Got all straight A's so far.
Great.
That's awesome.
She doubted herself, but everybody who knows her knew she could do it.
And I know Andre's probably ready to get in bed, huh? It's what, 1 o'clock or something? 1 a.m. You're muted, Andre. You're muted. I don't know. He can't. Oh.
Sorry, I said I'm right next to my bed, so when I'm done, I'll just.
Just lays down
and turn the AC on.
But I'm quite an insomniac, so I'll say this, but I'll be up till 3. Very likely chatting with someone. Very likely
writing new songs.
Those days are gone for me. I'm way too old for that.
Yeah.
I see our leader out there is watching us.
So Andre, this new music you're working on, is that going to be on Rottweiler?
Yes. I can't see myself not being on Rottweiler, to be honest, because we've had such great working relationship with Jairus. Is a very big supporter, and I think working with them has been nothing but a joy. So I think we're a Rottweiler artist. So it's going to be on Rottweiler for sure. Yeah, nice. I think they've been good to us.
Love it.
Awesome. Definitely going to check you guys out.
Yeah, like I said, they're. I mean, I admit I'm not a huge extreme metal fan, and to me, I prefer when the vocals are somewhat, palatable to the normal ear. And so, if it's decipherable and I can hear it, I love it. I love that. I mean, I like a lot of the new metal stuff that's like it. And Andre was talking about some of the worship stuff. I've gotten into some of the other, and there's still probably new metal, not so extreme, but like the holy name bands and stuff like that are straight up just heavy worship. But yeah, but so when you listen to his band, it's all over the place. You get a little bit of extreme, you get a little bit of maybe some death growls over here, and then you all of a sudden it's melodic. And yeah, it's really, there's a lot to appreciate there for sure. If people have not checked them out, definitely do so. So
Absolutely.
But okay, well, with that, I guess, like I say, don't want to take up all your time, but we'll go ahead and wrap this up. If there's anybody got any closing comments, sayings, anything Jimmy wants to say that's gonna,
I mean,
words of wisdom.
I'm looking forward to Immortal Fest. I will definitely be at Immortal Fest Part 1 in July. If anybody watching this is there, come up and say, hey, we'll have a Christian metal banner up there. I'll be hanging out with Pastor Bob. Very excited about Chaotic Resemblance. That's one band I want to see. And Iron Wrath, man, if y'all have not heard Iron Wrath, that is my new favorite band. I am so in love with this band. I saw them at Part 2 last year for the first time, and they were amazing. Of course, I mean, there's lots of bands on here, Vengeance Saint, White Cross, all these bands. So it's going to be great getting to hang out for a week there. I've got actually one of the Christian metal mods is planning on coming from Norway, Carl. And I have another friend from South Carolina, and then a friend from, I believe, New Jersey that's coming down. And we're all going to be going to get us Airbnb and rock out for the weekend.
All right. Got room for one more? Maybe I should make plans. Come crash at the Airbnb.
I do. We do. Hey, let's go.
Sounds like fun.
It's going to be, yeah.
Every year I'm like, I got to find a way to go. So, but it's the same thing with like one of the other big festivals I really want to go to every year is the Morse Fest, which is Neil Morse and his crew. And that's in Tennessee. And that's like, it's this much closer, but I'm like, still, it's like a 9-hour drive. I'm like, I'm too lazy to drive anymore.
Probably see
to find out what the FedEx rates for jumbo boxes are, so if I can get myself one of those boxes and ship myself over to Jimmy's house.
There you go. All right. Well, anyway, then I guess we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for being here. Andre staying up so late and sharing with us, and definitely Robert and Elise for being just so kind and great and sharing with us all of that. And I will be, when I'm getting off of here, I'm going to probably turn around and buy a WarPriest shirt because I just can't stop looking at your chest in a good way. The WarPriest shirt. I love that artwork. But anyway,
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so definitely check it out. I'm sure, in the comments, I mean, not comments, but down in the description, there'll be links. I know that he's been showing links. We've been showing links through the video. Definitely check out these two totally opposite ends of the spectrum bands. They, something for everyone. It's great stuff. And we thank you so much for joining us here at this podcast that we took over and kicked Doug out of. And maybe we won't let him come back. I don't know. Jimmy and I and some of the others may just continue pushing it on, It's been fun.
Pray about it.
Yeah. And thank you for the Sanctuary team for allowing us this platform to begin with. And for all those behind the scenes that are making this happen as we speak now. So, and other than that, if anybody has no other further comments, I guess we will say goodbye to everyone. And thanks for joining us.